The following video was produced by the Pattaya City Expats Club, which is a non-profit social organisation, and our speakers are volunteers. The club, as such, assumes no responsibility or liability for the professional reputation of or the quality of services provided by the speaker in this video. Okay?
I've had the pleasure of knowing and hearing Kuntasana Nabajara play many times, sometimes at Eel Swamp, sometimes at PCEC concerts, and sometimes at the SSMS concerts at Tiffany's. Kuntasana will tell us a little bit more about that when he speaks. He took up learning the violin at the early age of 9. He is currently the artistic director of the Pro Musica Orchestra. If you ever get the opportunity to hear them, go. If you haven't heard classical music before, you're going to have a little sample of it today. It's wonderful, really wonderful. And the more you hear it, the more you'll enjoy it. His topic will be living with music. He studied at the International Menuhin Music Academy, Switzerland, Vorarlberg Conservatory in Austria, and at the University of Oregon, Eugene, USA. Please give him a warm PCEC welcome.
Good morning, everyone. Today is April 1st, but I promise I won't say anything which is not true. Okay? It's very Western tradition. So actually, April 1st was a very important day of my life. In 1989, April 1st is the day that I left Thailand to study abroad. I spent about 11 years studying music abroad. It's very actually special day because I have never been away from home that far away before, and my parents, as a Thai parents, taking care of me so well. I have never boiled water by myself or even lighted matches. So the first time to go abroad and study, being in a foreign country, and being among fantastic musicians in the real European tradition was my big change of my life on April 1st. So very, very special to talk about my life on this day. So my instrument is the violin. I always fascinated by the sound of the strings instrument from very, very young. It's actually come from my family. My father played the violin as an amateur. He is he is a professor in German literature, and he listened to classical music a lot. So I grew up with this sound of the classical music. And the photos on this is in violin that actually my violin is copying of this violin. This is Niccolo Amati, around 1682 is one of the most beautiful instruments. Amati is before Stradivari. If you know those names, the violin that could cost millions of dollars. But my violin is a copy of this one, made in 2013. So my violin came from the Amati is from Cremona, Italy. My violin is from Treviso. It's about 30 kilometers from Venezia. So this Italian. All the violins wanted to be Italian because this is the place that violin should be born from. And the French bow, all the bows wanted to be French. That the violins were very, very funny to say that all the bows wanted to be French. The music I play for you is by Johann Sebastian Bach, the German composer, and the music composed in 1720. That was in North Germany. Bach was working in Cöthen before he moved to Leipzig, and the music looked like this. This is the handwriting of Bach from 1720. Very interesting that I am a Thai. I'm playing North German music from 1720 for many of the non-Thai audience. But I would tell you that how could I approach this sign is something that fascinates me always. I mean, I wouldn't talk about how much I practice practice violin, to hold my bow, to put my fingers on the fingerboard, and try to make the decent sound and not out of tune. That I spend many hours of my life practicing the violin. Is like sport. When I was about 18 years old, 19 years old, I used to practice 10 hours a day. And when I get to my master degree, I did about 5 to 6 hours a day for many years. At the moment, when I am working full time and busy, I may have about 2 hours, 1 hour, 1 hour and a half a day. But somehow, that's my career. I have to manage. So this is the handwriting part. The music is just a black spot on a paper. So it wouldn't tell you much. You have to know how to read music and somehow make this sound to the audience. I have to present this piece of paper to you. And actually, if you put this on a computer and compare to my playing just a few minutes ago, it will be totally different because I didn't really follow exactly what the music said. Why? This is composed by a German composer, but if you can read the top of the line, it's actually written in Italian. Sonata violin solo senza basso. So without bass, it means a violin alone. And it's a first movement of 4 movement sonata in Italian style. So we knew from many of the manual or books from those days that, of course, the Italian, they don't play things in exact tempo. And so I treat this music as a fantasy, not really strict about the music there. So I'm trying my best to look for what the composer wrote, because nowadays you can go online and find a lot of cheap music online, but you never know what is correct from the 1700s. Like Mozart, a lot of Mozart music came to our ears or our era, not really exact what he's written. So I have another funny example. This is Mozart original handwriting, and you can see that he's making correction and change his mind, crossing out things. This is also very interesting because we probably know from the myth and of themes that Mozart is such a genius. He writes things once and he will make mistake. Of course, he could do that, but as a human being, it's very common that he writes and he changes his mind and somehow people think that he's God or just angel come from heaven. This is the image. It took very long time before everyone agreed this is Mozart, because we used to these photos, these beautiful photos, image, let's say. But this one was painted more than 10 years after his death and trying to make him look beautiful. So this one, the people don't like it because it looks fat and sick. But it's true, because Mozart was very sick. This is 1790, it's about 1 year before he died. So he has problem with his kidneys, and we know exactly that the face was swollen. So they refuse. Why? Because they like this one. Because if you put this on a chocolate box, you couldn't sell it. So a lot of music that came to our life is lots to do with business and money. So they try to make Mozart look like that so they can sell more chocolate. So a little bit about myself. Some of you have heard me play, but normally I don't talk on stage. So I could tell you a little bit about myself. I grew up in a musical family. My parents both educated in Europe. My father went to Cambridge, get a PhD from Tübingen in Germany. My mother went to Sorbonne in Paris. And of course they were listening or have a lot of Western tradition in our house, but also because my grandfather is quite a respectful Thai traditional ensemble manager. So I have also learned the Thai instrument even before I learned the violin. And my father was, of course, a professor. He very strict on my daily schedule. I used to get up in the morning and practice before going to school. On Saturday morning, we have a teacher come to the house to teach painting lessons. Sunday morning, another teacher come to the house. So I was totally, I didn't know if I really liked that childhood, but it made me like today. And I went abroad, that I told you in the beginning of this talk, to study in Switzerland first. This is the man, this one is Yehudi Menuhin, which is the grand figure of the violin world. The president of my school that I went in Switzerland, and this is my other teacher, Alberto Lisi from Argentina. So Alberto Lisi was a student of Menuhin. So actually, the teacher that teach music is very important. It's like the tradition. Alberto learned from Menuhin learned from UNESCO. So we cannot really do this, let's say, online. So I still have a job on teaching violin because it's one of the subjects that you need to be with the real person. To learn what violin online, of course, there's a lot of things you can find. I even made my teaching tool on YouTube now, but it's not the same. And after I spent years in Switzerland and Austria and America, it's interesting that after 7 years in Europe, at that time, I was listening to a lot of recordings of the American musicians. So because I think after the war, great musicians left Europe to United States, and they made a great tradition in America. So I went to America and studied, and I came back in 2000. My first job was the concert master of the Bangkok Symphony Orchestra. I spent 10 years leading the orchestra. Do you know what is the concert master? It's always the first violin who sits next to the conductor. And I have many people ask me, what do you do? What is the role of the concert master? I mean, in Europe, in Japan, the concert master gets probably 5 times more salary. And in Japan, they have their own car park. And because it is in the concert hall, there's no car park, it's only for the conductor and the concert master. And the concert master has his own room separate from the orchestra. So actually, we are playing on the first violin section, and I'm playing the same music as my colleagues behind me, 14 first violin behind me. But the concert master role actually is very political. I am the representative of the orchestra, and if we have a guest conductor that we don't really like, the orchestra asks me to fight with that conductor. So if the orchestra has a problem with the office, the administrative, so I have to knock the door of the president and fight with them. So somehow playing, leading the orchestra, being friends of the musician, trying to compromise with the conductor and the administrative. So there was 10 years of my leading orchestra experience. And after 10 years, I got a little bit tired of playing symphony orchestra. Not only by fighting with people all the time, which I did somehow, but also the repertoire of the symphony orchestra is somehow, because of the business again, it's so expensive to bring up one concert. It may cost 1 million baht with the rehearsal, guest artist, guest conductor, renting the hall. So many of the guest conductor who doesn't really know us, they always put the same famous symphony. Like I played the Warsaw Symphony number 9, the New World Symphony, 10 times, Tchaikovsky 4, Beethoven 7. So somehow in that 10 years, I have played the same pieces over and over. Of course, the audience like it. Sometimes we put more challenging program, like next week we have some the director of String of Stravinsky here in Pattaya. I'll tell you about that later. So after 10 years, I think I need to change somehow. So I was lucky enough to know a gentleman, Mamlung Asni Bramot, who founded this orchestra in 1958. Actually, this gentleman graduated from Oxford, from law school in Oxford, and came back to Thailand and pioneered the classical music in Thailand. So this is the original orchestra with himself sitting as a concertmaster with the German conductor at that time. So I'm very close to this man, and he said, why don't we bring up that old Pro Musica back? The Pro Musica from 1958, play the concert and stop before the Born of the Bangkok Symphony. So actually it was the pre-Bangkok Symphony, the previous one. So I was playing with him in this small chamber orchestra, a smaller size. This photograph taken in Cardigan Hall in London. We were playing in London. And I'm doing more of the chamber music, the smaller group of musicians. It's a lot of fun because in orchestra we have great sound because there's so many sound of the orchestra. You have the string, you have the woodwind and brass and the percussion. But chamber music is more intimate. These photos I'm playing the Mozart Sonata with my regular pianist on hand. It's interesting because we have to work everything in detail, and the important thing is no conductor to tell you what to do, like in the orchestra. So we have to work. I have to search for the manuscript of Mozart to see what really Mozart was writing. We have to rehearse, to decide the tempo, the whatever from that paper to become the real sound. And this is another piano quintet we performed in Bangkok with Leo Flanders, who was once the speaker here. This is the concert hall of the Goethe Institute in Bangkok. So at this moment, after 10 years of being in the orchestra, I'm trying my best to bring new sound to Bangkok, because there are no chamber group or no chamber orchestra in Bangkok at all. So a lot of fun from the violin and piano. This is the piano quintet, a string quartet plus a piano. This is the string quintet with the viola. This is the chamber orchestra at Anantara Siam, Bangkok. Quite a nice room in a hotel room. Actually, in Bangkok, there are not so many real concert hall. There are cultural center, which is, and then some hall on the suburb of Bangkok. This is a nice hotel that we can play in very good sound in there. This photo is taken just last Thursday. We performed in this place last Thursday. Also, I'm trying to bring music to a wider audience, like we did in Pattaya a few months ago. This is the Rajmankar Hotel in Chiang Mai, and it is in Chiang Mai in the winter time, when Thai winter is cool enough to put the ensemble outside. And for now, it wouldn't be possible because it's too hot, too humid. The violin will just break in the sun, in the heat. So it's very nice and more casual atmosphere. I talk to the audience and we play a little bit light classical music program. And as you can see, I am now start to conduct a little bit, from playing the violin, leading the orchestra, organizing chamber groups, and then finally I was always hesitate to conduct because I have never learned a minute in any conducting class. As you saw, I conduct the last concert. It's all from my experience in the orchestra. It's two things. Some conductors, many of the conductors are pianists or composers because they know the score very well. But I am from the orchestra itself, so I didn't really approach the rehearsal or the orchestra the way the composer or the pianist did from the score, but I actually run everything from my experience. Another we did this beginning of this year a combination of performance and music. This is the Mozart Requiem in January this year, a string quartet version arranged from the original Requiem of Mozart, and we put it together with, we call the dance company, but they don't really dance, they interpret this Requiem in their own interpretation. Very interesting, it was very successful, the hall was packed, people had to cannot even come and stand in the concert hall. So this is somehow a new movement that I'm trying to create for our society in Bangkok or in Pattaya and Chiang Mai. We perform many times in Pattaya. And this is another annual concert for small children. We allow, it's no age limit. People can bring their 6 months or 2 years old running around screaming. And we really encourage parents to bring their kids to the concert. This is kind of an old warehouse in southern Thailand in Songkhla. So we try to bring music to a new audience in a new venue. This is a street festival in Old Town Bangkok. I'm playing the Four Seasons by Vivaldi there. Interesting because, of course, when you play outdoor, there is no acoustic, and it can be hot and humid. And just opposite me, behind this building, it was a big Pad Thai restaurant. So I could hear the sound of the wok and smoke and smell of the Pad Thai during I played the Four Seasons. It's somehow very difficult for my profession because the Four Seasons is about 45 minutes long of 4 violin concertos put together. So it's nothing that you can just walk out there and do something. So I have to concentrate a lot. Like this morning, usually in concert, I would need 15 minutes to warm up, to tune my violin and warm up. But this morning was no opportunity, no chance, no time. So I have to pick up my violin and play with cold hands. But see, musicians, we are ready to do those things. Somehow. This is happening in last February because in Bangkok the main problem of our audience is traffic jam. People can't get to the concert hall because they're too crazy, the traffic jam. We played just 2 days ago, Thursday concert at Anantara, which is on Ras Prasong. Of course, that song is somehow crazy enough, the traffic. But you can get there with the SkyTrain, but not everyone could get on the stair of the SkyTrain. And Friday, we have the repeat concert at Siam Society, Asok. Probably the worst traffic jam in Bangkok. On a Friday, end of the month. So people spend 2 hours in the car and arrive late. So somehow, I was talking to our group of musicians, and we think we should bring music to the audience. And this photo is taken from the concert at Panya village. It's a big Muban village with about 600 homes there. And we have a wonderful lady who giving the room, this wonderful room seated about, can host 100 audience. And extremely wonderful. It's not only, they don't need to drive to center of Bangkok, but the atmosphere that people sit around and be at home. Actually, the chamber music, the name itself, chamber is like room. So we call this series bringing chamber music back into the home. So it's actually, this is the original tradition that people sit around us and very close to the musician, and we play Haydn String Quartet and the Dvorak American Quartet for them. Also, somehow classical music, some of the pieces you need explanation. It's not all of the pieces are easy listening, I must say. Even Mozart wrote to his father that when he moved to Vienna, he was trying to make a living by pleasing both the music lovers and the connoisseur. So it's very, very interesting words for our profession, because we know that our audience love the music. But somehow, like last Thursday, we performed a piece by Arno Schoenberg called Verklärte Nacht. I mean, sounds scary enough. If you know Schoenberg, you may get scared, and the name Verklärte Nacht is something. So we arranged, let's say, a pre-concert talk or a little lecture to explain, because this piece composed after a poetry, a German poetry, very interesting. A man and a woman walk into the wood under the moon, and the woman confessed to the man that he was pregnant, but by the other man. That was 1870 something. So, and in those days, it's like a big scandal in those days. And Schoenberg took the poem and wrote the music. So somehow, it's nice to know a little bit about what the music is referred to. So we have this session that we have. Actually, it's my dad, because he knows the German poetry the best. So I forced my dad to do the job with the conductor, and it's enjoyable to hear, and the music somehow go along with the poetry, and you know, a little bit is nice. I do always with my Mozart project. If you see the CD, the Mozart sonata is from my thesis, from my doctoral thesis, and I do for each of the series a pre-concert talk before the concert. That's also very tiring, because you have to play the whole program, 3 or 4 sonatas, and talk for an hour before playing the full program. But for me, it's necessary to share my experience. I wouldn't say I'm trying to educate or lecture, but I would bring the audience into my world or my passion about this music, and we can share a little bit about this. I'm talking a bit about next Saturday concert. This very funny poster is not from my design. So next week is an SSMS, which is the letter is from Silapakon Summer Music School. We have been doing this project. I am the director of this project also for 13 or 14 years, and each year it gets more and more crazy, because after you put the standard repertoire like Tchaikovsky Symphony, etc., we think we should educate our kids, because this is an orchestra that bring in students all over Thailand. They audition to be in Pattaya. Actually, last night everyone is already here in the SCB training center in Thorndrom in Sunset Beach, and we spent a week learning very challenging music. So this year we are trying to attack the piece by Igor Stravinsky, The Rite of Spring. This piece was premiered in 1913. The first day of the first performance was like a big scandal, because it's a ballet by Stravinsky, and it was premiered in Paris. People came to the concert hall, and after a few minutes of the introduction, they start to shout and throw things. There's one big mess in the audience, because the music sounds so absurd to their ears in those days. And it's a YouTube clip from the composer himself explaining what's happening on that day. He was sitting in the audience. He escaped, of course. It was too big scandal. And the policeman came to calm the audience down there, and the piece go on. And actually, it's very interesting, because this piece, we musicians say, is a prototype of jazz and rock music. Because the way that Stravinsky put the sound to the orchestra and the rhythm in 1913 was, of course, it was crazy, really. Even nowadays, I listened to the rehearsal last night. It was so complex. Actually, the music itself for us is very complex, but for the audience, it should sound fun, so much fun. because you can hear a lot of sound that you never heard before at the beginning, and this, the rhythm of this, let's say, prehistoric Russian tale comes. Oh, it's a great work, and nowadays, I mean, it's become quite normal that every professional orchestra has to play this masterpiece. So we have a week in Pattaya to train this student and bring this concert to Tiffany Theatre next Saturday. The other two pieces in the program is by Masani Pramod, who is the founder of Pro Musica Orchestra, on the theme of Zebra. This is a Thai poet in Ayutthaya period. I don't know if you watch this Thai Bupe Sandiwat TV series. Of course, it's very Thai. Now everyone is going crazy about this TV series. And actually, this poet is living on that period of Ayutthaya. Very interesting life of this poet. He was like very talented, and the king liked him very much. He can improvise any difficult poet by just bring out in that minute, and somehow got involved with one of the king's concubine or ladies. So he was kicked out of the palace to the south of Thailand, and he did the same with the king of the southern part of Thailand. So he was executed. It's a scene in this music that was like cutting head off. And afterwards, the king from Ayutthaya just missed this man, so he tried to call him back to Ayutthaya, but he was dead. So the southern king was also executed because he executed one of the king's favorite poet. So that's just the theme of this Zebra symphonic poem. Very interesting. The beginning of the program is Claude Debussy, French Impressionist string orchestra and harp solo. It's very, very challenging program for us, and if you are in Pattaya, I would encourage you to come to hear this sound of the orchestra. Before I finish the talk, I'd like to go a little bit to the future, because somehow we say that classical music is dead. In the Western world, in America or in Europe now, the audience get less and less. Every orchestra has a problem. In Germany, they put 3 orchestras together because they have no more money from ticket sale to support the orchestra. So somehow we have to adapt to the new world. So I show you maybe 2 clips from, the first one is from Germany. The series is played in Yellow Lounge Witches. This series is created by the Deutsche Grammophon, the record company itself. How to make classical music still in our society.
Ich muss schon sagen, ich war sehr nervös am ersten Abend des Clubs. Ich bin nie nervös. Es war vielleicht sogar das erste Mal in meinem Leben, dass ich mit Nerven zu kämpfen hatte, weil es sehr selten in meinem Leben passiert, dass ich in eine Situation als Künstler gerate, die ich nicht einschätzen kann. Ja, egal, ich bin da in die Höhle des Löwen, so hat sich das angefühlt, und bin auch ein Publikum getroffen, das unglaublich aufnahmefähig, total unverbogen, offen und sehr emotional auf die Musik reagiert hat, und das hat mich wahnsinnig berührt. Natürlich etwas, womit ich sehr früh begonnen habe, und ich hatte sehr viel Hilfe auch in der Auswahl des Repertoires, im Sinne von, man hat mir also 1000 Dinge, 1000 Gedanken, Anstöße gegeben, und so entstand ein Kaleidoskop der Vielfältigkeit der Musikgeschichte, aber hauptsächlich eben auch der Vielfältigkeit des Instruments Geige. Ich bin nach wie vor fasziniert von der Geige, und ich möchte diese Faszination teilen. Und dass wir Vivaldi, den Meister der Klangmalerei natürlich mit reinnehmen, den 4 Jahresheimer.
So this is one kind of that's happening in Berlin. Even in Berlin, where is probably the most successful in classical music. They have the orchestra that is sold out all year, and they need to do this kind of thing. Another clip that I wanted to show is in San Francisco. This is very creative. Somehow they wanted to make people to come to the concert more than
Many who come here tonight may not know a lot about classical music, but that's part of the experiment.
Soundbox is designed to appeal to people, many of them younger people, who never have attended many classical concerts before.
This is a laboratory for the San Francisco Symphony and music director Michael Tilson Thomas, who are looking for ways to create new musical experiences and entice new audiences.
Since the 1970s, I've been really interested in how the installation of music can change the audience's perception of it. Of course, for musicians, it's all enveloping, it's all around us, it is a kind of separate world. But how to bring people who are listening to music more inside the world that we, the performers, are experiencing.
By day, the space is a cavernous rehearsal hall. But by showtime, lighting, the bar, and custom acoustics designed for the event completely transform the space. The musicians are members of the same orchestra that performs on the main stage of Davies Symphony Hall, where they've honed their skills playing classical symphonies. But in this venue, there are multiple stages and opportunities to broaden the repertoire.
Playing Soundbox is a completely different experience. Musically, we do get to do different things in Soundbox. The piece that I played was kind of a very angular, loud, rambunctious piece.
Each set lasts 20 to 30 minutes with ample intermissions to mingle and buy drinks. And at $25, the price of entry here is a fraction of the higher tier symphony seats.
It's a more relaxed atmosphere, and I think that is the first thing that kind of turns younger, maybe less exposed people off to the whole symphony experience. They think they're going to come in here and they have to be quiet, and it's stuffy, and everyone's, wearing a tuxedo or a ball gown, and you can't talk and you can't move and you don't know when to clap.
The free-flowing atmosphere is targeting a younger, more diverse audience, but the goal is to hook them into serious music.
It is very challenging music. I usually tend to, when I go out, go to more kind of either rock-oriented shows or hip-hop shows or kind of more modern shows. But I found that it blew my mind.
The series is just 4 months old, and the Symphony has made some unusual marketing choices by not putting a link to Soundbox on its homepage, says classical music critic Joshua Cosby.
So it's a sort of an anti-marketing strategy, right? Where you kind of make sure not to give too much information that will bring in the regulars and squeeze out the newcomers and the adventurers.
Cosman said that symphonies need to justify their existence in a landscape crowded with entertainment options. The San Francisco Symphony Board President, Sakurako Fisher, argues that Soundbox is about more than selling tickets. It's about staying relevant.
It's not a business. It is part of the necessity of the human heart. It's a part of what makes a vibrant community, and as long as we think that's important, I think that we'll, sure, would we like it to be more like a business? Who wouldn't? It's not. I accept that. Let's move forward then.
If the current run of sold-out performances means anything, Soundbox may be the prototype for the next era in classical music.
So that is my dream. Actually, I'm planning that in Bangkok. I'm trying to find the right venue to do something like this in Bangkok. Because even for myself, if the audience come and they don't know what to clap, when to clap, because there's so many movements, there's something wrong about it. Because something, the first movement, if I play, let's say, first movement of Tchaikovsky Violin Concerto, it's so incredible music. And when it stops and people don't clap, it's wrong. Actually, it's very unnatural. And if the audience, I will tell you one thing, it's very interesting. In Mozart time, nobody will just sit still and be quiet and listen to music. It's something that they will be very, it's surprising because in the opera of Mozart, the Magic Flute, it's written that people drink beer and have lamb grill in the opera house, and they shout to the performers, and the performers shout back. That's the Magic Flute of Mozart. But nowadays we come and we sit still and we cannot even laugh when it's funny, because the opera is very funny. It should be people should laugh at least when it's funny. And to clap between movements, in the 18th century, they clap during the music performance. If they like it, they clap along. That's something very natural about music. And if we, in the tradition of being stiff and quiet, I don't like that very much. I could understand my audience, but now we in this world, if I ask my audience to shout at me in the concert, I think maybe half of the audience wouldn't like it. But I think in the future, this will change. Two things: how to present the music in the concert hall, quiet, sit still. I don't think this will last very long. It doesn't work with the human natural. I believe it myself when I perform. I think this will change. And another thing, if you talk about classical music, it only means a dead European white man that has been dead for 100 years. That also wouldn't last very long, because again, in Mozart time, because I was so much into Mozart in my last 4 years, in the concert program, they won't play the music from the past. It's always something new. You go to the concert, it's like you're searching things on YouTube. People wait when Beethoven going to write the next symphony. When is Mozart will present something to the society. So they go to the concert, they expect something new, interesting. And another thing is improvisation, which is lack from classical music. I came here with the cheap music. I should have learned how to just walk out and improvise something like Mozart and Beethoven and Brahms. Johannes Brahms grew up in Hamburg and played at a bar. That was his career. Mozart could just walk out and improvise anything. Anything is mean. If you improvise for the emperor or aristocrat, is another thing. But if he improvised for the friends and audience there, of course we don't have a recording of that. But some letters say that was probably the highlight of the program. He's playing the piano concerto here, introducing a new symphony, and then improvisation in the concert was the most interesting that people are waiting to hear. So for my opinion, that somehow I may be the last generation of this kind of presenting classical music. We will see. I don't know what will happen next, but at least I enjoy playing the violin at the moment. And I'm trying my best to go forward to the future, not only enjoying music from the 17th, 18th century. I premiere a lot of new music by Thai composer. It's not fun because you have to learn new things, and sometimes it's crazy because the new composer, they are trying to be different. So it's always quite difficult to learn a new piece from scratch. You don't have anything example from YouTube, but I think that's necessity of try to bring life back to classical music. So I think I leave it here for now. Thank you. Do you have any questions or any?
With the microphone, okay.
I was just interested to know if when you see a score of music, without listening to anything, can you hear the music in your mind just by reading? It depends. I mean, when we talk about music, it's many things. If it's one melody and chord, it's another thing. But if you have violin and piano, it's already more complex. If you have the full orchestra score, it's something different. But of course, we learned that was in school. We learned it's called sight singing. You, as the teacher, put the music in front of you, and you have to sing it. So somehow we have to hear it before. And very interesting question. That was I always tell my student: if you can't hear it before, you cannot play. Why? Because on the fingerboard there's no sign. In the guitar you have the fret divided the note. The piano has a keyboard. The woodwind instrument has their own hole to know. We don't have anything. We are blind. So if I read the music and I don't hear it before, I have no chance to put my finger. So that I would say yes to the not too complex music. But I could, when I see it, I could somehow sing it in my head. But if it's very complex, I have to sit down and start figure out slowly.
Hi, my name is John Lanzillo. Yeah, I'm John. Thanks for the talk. Very interesting and very interesting talk. I loved your bark at the beginning. Two questions about the concert. I take it starts 11 o'clock in the morning, right?
Yes.
Okay. Will you have a talk to explain the pieces before?
We didn't plan for that. Do you think it's necessary? I could do that.
Yes. Well, my last question was going to be: if there is a talk, will there be a talk in Thai?
Could be in two languages. But I didn't plan for it, and I have to talk to the conductor. Do you know why we have to start at 11 o'clock? Normally we start at 4, because Tiffany has the first show at 6 p.m. always. But this year they think they would put another show at 4 p.m. So we have to get out of the stage by 2. So that's why we have to it's a little funny to hear the Rite of Spring at 11 a.m. but we cannot do anything about that.
Can you say the date again? The date? Tell you in a second, Julie. Thank you very much, Tassana, for an extremely interesting presentation.